All right, just like we did with our little carpenter, little miniature carpenter, we're going to do a little miniature painter. And using basically the same type pattern that I'm using here. I made, since I'm going to have arms sticking out on both sides of this one, I made him a little bit thicker. I made him 1.5 inches instead of 1.25 inches, so that it would give me plenty of room on both sides to have my hands come out, in other words. So this is 3 inches high, and he's going to be a little painter. And we're going to make a little scene like we made with the little carpenter. And once again, basically, there's not a lot of difference in what comes out of it, but let's just go ahead and now it is a little bit thicker now, you know, with being 1.5 inches with us, so we're going to have to cut a lot more off, as we might say. But that's okay, that's no problem. I'm just giving it a little bit more room for my hands and my arms, because most of the time I don't always have both arms coming out on both sides, in other words. But I do this time, so I gave myself a little bit more room. I just used 1.5 inch wood rather than 1.25. Well, I cut it to 1.5 inch. I didn't have any 1.5 inch wood. Okay, let's see. All right. Let's see if we can do this without drawing blood. Okay. Oh boy, I tell you. The main thing is we have to just understand that I'm going to lower this just a little bit. No, I want to come up just a little bit, just so we can kind of center him a little bit better. The main thing is, I didn't cut myself with a knife. I cut it with the moto tool. It was a little drill I was using on the hammer, and it caught me on the end there and nicked me. I have been carving close to 30 years now, and I have not actually ever cut myself bad enough to go to the hospital. Now, I'm not bragging, folks. I'm just telling you that if you keep a good sharp knife and don't force things, take little cuts, don't take large cuts, you know, then your chances are very good that you won't cut yourself real bad. And that's the thing I don't want more than anything. And wear your safety glove as well. The problem with me when I'm trying to do a video with a safety glove is it's so bulky, you can't really see the figure as I carve it, so I'm not using it right now. I know Arlene and I have talked about this, who does other videos herself, that with a safety glove it is very hard to see the figure. I've talked to her on the phone. It's Arlene Zoomer, who does the wonderful other videos for carvers, and she said the same thing. She says it gets in the way of the camera and everything. So, but I always tell young carvers to use a glove. I used a glove as a new carver. I still use a glove. I just don't use it when I do my videos because it's so hard to see. Okay, now as we see here, all I'm doing here is just bringing the head down. I'm just bringing it down so that we can sort of get things sort of, and I'm going to take a little bit off the front here. I'm going to put him also in overalls because a painter would be in overalls. Just doing a little cutting on the, but keep your knife sharp, and like I say, don't take a lot of, don't get in a hurry, and don't take a lot of large cuts at one time. Just see, you notice I don't take off a lot of at one time, and if I have to cut it 3 times to do it, I'll do it, because it's so easy to break. And I'll tell you what, the thing about basswood, most basswood I get from Heineke wood is good basswood. It's excellent. But there are places sometimes in basswood where you have a bad place that is weak, and your knife blade just goes straight through it. And there's where my issues have always been. Usually, is I'll just be carving along there, and I'll hit a area that is just bad. And next thing I know, the knife just goes through it like butter, and I'm not expecting it. I'm expecting a little resistance so you know, and learn the pressure when you get into areas. Just learn. That's why practice is so important. Learn to use the amount of pressure. Don't. That's what I'm saying. If your knife is sharp, you don't have to use as much pressure. So, all right. Now, the reason, like I said, the arms are going to come down here like this, okay? On both sides. On both sides, they're going to come down like this. All right? And always make them bigger at first, and if I want to cut them down. Because on one side, he's going to be holding a paintbrush, and on the other side, he's going to be holding a bucket of paint. So, we're going to cut that real quick. Yeah, there's a lot of things, and like I said, the wood that people sell, like Heineke wood sells, they can't be responsible for every piece of wood being perfect. They just can't. I mean, wood is cut from, they try to cut it from the heart of the tree. They try to cut it the best they possibly can. But you can't just, you can't have every piece perfect the way you want it. So there are some flaws in wood, like anything. I've gotten basswood that is so hard you can't even carve it hardly. And I've gotten basswood, now not from, I really haven't got that from Heineke, but I got some southern basswood one time that was so hard you couldn't carve it at all. I mean, and I tried to soak it, do everything in the world, and it was just terrible. And I don't know what it was wrong with it. I think it was just, it hadn't been dried or something, or the man actually, I found it up in Branson, Missouri. A man had it in his barn, and I thought, wow, you know, he had a good price to give me and stuff, but it was really, I don't know if it just didn't have, a lot of times southern basswood, it doesn't have enough, they don't grow with enough water or whatever. So I try to stick with northern basswood if I possibly can, and because it's just, I don't know, it's consistency of and this stuff, it wasn't, it was just too hard to carve. It was miserable to carve. I mean, I'd break every piece, you know, every piece I tried, it would break it, and I mean, it was terrible. It wasn't just so, it was hard, it was brittle, it was crumbly, it was all those things, and it was just terrible. So I learned, you know, you learn by trial and error, folks. Okay. Now, as you can see now, I'm working, of course, I always make the arms bigger. So, That's okay. Always do that, and then when I get through with it, we'll. And let's see, I'm gonna bring this down here like this. I always make the arms bigger so that I can bring it back, as I'm doing right now. But you can't always, every piece you get going to be a perfect piece and going to cut smooth. And I've gotten some wood sometimes. I've gotten the same basswood from Heineke, and I'll have one piece that I have to be real careful with because it just cuts like, I mean, it's just fantastic. I mean, it's so smooth. It's just, and I've gotten another piece that just, I had a little bit of issue with it cutting, you know, and it's not their fault. It's just, it's just sometimes the wood doesn't always come out the right way. But as far as consistency of good wood, I have found that Heineke is some of the best that you can buy. They really are. And basically, if you find a good seller of basswood, stay with them. Okay? Stay with them. Don't just, now there's nothing wrong with getting around, but a lot of guys have, I know a lot of men who, of my carving group, who have driven up, gotten trailers and stuff, and driven up and gotten large amounts of basswood and come down. And sometimes it's good basswood, and sometimes it's just not. And they know it. They admit it themselves. So sometimes you get a bargain on basswood, but sometimes there's a reason you're getting that bargain, like anything else. So be careful. Okay. As you can see, I'm just basically going around here. Okay, now let's look at our piece here. He's kind of got a big stomach. We'll bring that down a little bit too. But we're going to put coveralls on him. But there's just those are the things that you learn as a carver as you begin to, you learn that sometimes you get good stuff and sometimes you don't. It's like anything else. You buy stuff thinking that, but any time that you usually find things at a bargain, a lot of times, there's a reason for it. So, okay. Okay, now we've got his basic block-out shape really taking place right here. And I think I'm going to leave a pretty good little stomach on him. I think it would be cute. Okay. Now we've got the basic shape of him pretty much drawn out here. And let's come back here and separate our arms from our back. Now the other knife that I was using was a knife that I had made, and it had a smaller blade. This one has a little bit longer. This is a Mike Shipley knife that I'm using. I love Mike's knives. This is going to be a fairly simple little piece. Not going to be difficult. He's going to have a paintbrush in one hand and a bucket of paint in the other hand. And we're going to make a little scene like we did with the carpenter. All right, since of course these arms are too far up here, let's go ahead and bring those back on both sides. Plus it gives room for there we go. I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and, since we've got him all blocked out now, let's go ahead and end this video right now, and we'll come back and continue with him and work with him. And I'll show you how we're going to make a little paintbrush and a little bucket. I think we've made buckets before, but anyway, how we make a little bucket. Anyway, okay, well there's our little figure so far, and we're having a good time doing him. And our little miniature painter that we're doing.